was born in Algeria. He went on to work under several French presidents, including Jacques Chirac at the Ministry of Defence. Nadia Dondoun is here. He's a Paris-based journalist and the author of several books, including Open Letter to the Son of an Immigrant. And last but not least, in Algiers tonight, Malek Serai is the former economic advisor to the current president, Bouteflika. Well, also here in the studio, our very own media editor, James Queen. Good to see you, James. And you've been keeping an eye on the online reaction to those comments and that visit by François Hollande. What have you got?
That's right. Lots of reaction on the social media and across the media in general. Let's take a look at the computer. You have the famous sentence, by now famous, of François Hollande. Je reconnais les souffrances que la colonisation a infligées au peuple algérien. I recognise the suffering the colonisation inflicted on the Algerian people. So that, of course, the Socialist Party taking the opportunity to put that sentence out there. So a lot of division on this, in particular amongst politicians who are tweeting those divisions. Lionel Lucas, who is a UMP MP, he says, well, recognition is simply the version light, the light version of repentance. So he's more or less saying that it's essentially repentance. Alain Juppé, who might be considered a bit more measured on the political right, he said that Hollande found the right words, les mots justes. Le Parisien, talking about those divisions between the left and the right in France, frisson à gauche, critique à droite. So people with shivers because they're so emotional about it on the left, whereas criticisms on the right. One of those who expressed that he had frisson is the Socialist Party MP Razi Amadi, who is in Algeria. He's Algerian, has Algerian origins, and he spoke about a very emotional reaction to François Hollande's speech. This person sees things quite differently. In Algiers, Hollande humiliated us. Us, I'm not sure who us is, perhaps all of France from this guy's point of view. And France Inter, French radio station, collecting a lot of those reactions as well. One from an Algerian journalist, Izan El Kadi, who says the speech is historic. Yeah. He essentially recognised the negative role of colonisation. So for this person, he's reading into what Hollande said as well. So a lot of interpretation of that sentence, Laura.
OK, absolutely. It's very political, isn't it, here?
Yes.
And in the French press as well, some rather revealing surveys about French attitudes to citizens with Algerian origins. Tell us about that.
That's right. A couple of polls that came out. Only 26%, this is on Atlantico's website, only 26% of French people have a positive image of Algeria against 71% who have a positive image of Morocco, 53% for Tunisia. I suppose showing the legacy that the war has left, the Algerian War of Independence, left on the minds of some. Apparently those who vote on the left have a negative image of Algeria for different reasons. It's more to do with corruption in the Algerian government, etc., from the perspective of French leftists. There's also this this particular poll, 35% of French people, Hollande should not apologise. Indeed, he didn't, if you take the literal view of things. 39% said he perhaps could or should, but 26% of that 39%, this is getting quite numbery, said that if he were to apologise, there should be an apology in return, for example, for the treatment of the Harkis, who were Algerians who fought for France during the War of Independence. So there you go.
Apologies all around. Absolutely.
A couple of cartoons. Will I show you a few of the cartoons online as well? Alerte enlèvement, that's what you see in France whenever there is actually a kidnapping. Disappeared this morning in Algeria, and oh, by the way, you can keep him. So I think that might be a right-winger in France. You also have this in El Watan, Accueil populaire pour Hollande, a popular welcome for Hollande.
Algerian paper, right?
Algerian paper, and because I suppose perhaps things aren't going so well at home, so he's saying, oh, I'll give back my passport as well, picking up on the whole Gérard Depardieu scandal. And then there's finally this one, François Hollande à Alger, une visite chargée de symboles, and a visit heavy with symbols, but actually the symbols on a suitcase are businesses such as Total, oil companies, etc. So a lot of business behind this official visit as well.
Good stuff, James Creedon. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Laura.
Indeed. A little roundup there of how the press is seeing this, both here and in Algeria. What did you make of that?
Like we said, when business talks, rubbish walks, or something like that.
Never heard that one, but what?
It's a saying, you know.
When business talks, rubbish walk. I don't know the saying, but I appreciate
in
the
English,
sentiment.
because I live in Sydney 7 years, and people used to say that.
Oh, right.
Australians say something.
Australian slang.
We'll have to ask our colleagues about that one. But it's interesting to see, Pierre Canessa, isn't it? The very different attitudes here in France towards Algeria as a country and towards Hollande's apology.
Well, you know, regarding the French opinion, one can't think that it's just a business trip. I mean, there is some very sensitive aspect in the French opinion regarding this this episode of the French history and the Algerian history because of Pied Noir, because of Arquis, because of political aspect of this question. I mean, do France has to apologize, which is a very important question, politically speaking. But in fact, you know, we are 50 years after the end of the war. I mean, what's the importance of these words? You understand? We are quite focused on the word. And the main problem of Algeria today are not this apologize of France. The main problem of Algeria is the end of the civil war, is the end of bribery, is the end of corruption, is a sustainable development economic plan, etc., etc. So we don't have to regard Algeria exactly through the French point of view. You understand what I mean? I think we have also to think about the future of Algeria itself.
Well, let's take a listen to François Hollande again. Here he is talking yesterday. Now, what he's talking about here is the political situation in Algeria today. Now, of course, many countries in the region had uprisings, the Arab Spring, it's been called. They've overthrown authoritarian rulers. Many people have said, you know, why did that not happen in Algeria? And there was a brief protest movement back in 2011 at the beginning of the year. It didn't go anywhere. It was quickly quashed. And here is Hollande responding to a journalist's question about why Algeria hasn't had its own Arab Spring moment. Have a listen.
It doesn't seem that Algeria experienced the same events as other countries. Here, it didn't happen the same way. Every country has its specificities, has its own problems, its own difficulties. But I want to salute the Algerians' courage for staying united throughout the years.
Malik Sarai, Algeria's had the same party in control since the beginning of the 1960s, since independence. Is an Arab Spring moment overdue in Algeria?
Excuse me?
Is an Arab Spring moment overdue in Algeria, given that you've had the same political party in power for many decades now?
You know, socially, as Mediterranean country, we are so different, except from Tunisia and Morocco, we are so different from the other Arab people in the Gulf country, for example. This is first question. The second question, we are looking for Europeans. We would like to reach the level of Europeans within the 10, 15, 20 years. Thirdly, we were suffering during the war, and we were suffering during the 10 years of terrorism. So we are fed up. We are very tired people. We would like to have a small life. I mean, a better life than we had before. That's why it will be never. Algeria will never be like the other country. Definitely. Now we are looking only how to develop ourselves, how to have a better life, how to go through the modern connections with Europeans, because definitely the young people they completely forgotten what is going on even in Africa and Arab world. They are looking directly to France, to what's going in Italy, what's going in Spain. That's why if sometimes we.
But what happens in France and Spain, if I may interrupt you, is we tend to change our political leaders every few years.
Yeah, but we are different. We are going to we want to develop ourselves.
Why are you
quickly.
Different? Why should it be different in Algeria?
We're completely different. Algerians, they are francophone. They are Amazigh, Berber, Kabyle. We have a very strong connection with France because we have more than 1 million Algerians living in Europe, and these interconnections give us new ideas about how would be our behavior vis-à-vis to many things. But we are we have very high degree of on political aspect. For example, you discuss with young people on 20 years, 25, they will give you the exact things how we're thinking. The other side, we have a very strong army and very strong, security services. We keep on hand, very strong hand, the country. No one could, go to destroy anything economically. So everybody is aware about how to build our country, how to keep stable our country. This is how to keep, safe our country. How whatever happen around us in Mali, in Libya, in Tunisia, in Western Sahara, Algerians keep quiet and keep very, aware about what should not go in which kind of road we will follow.
All right. Pierre Canesse, I mean, that's the line you're... Yes.
Sorry, I just wanted to talk about what he just said. I think lots of people care about the way that history between France and my parents' country is going on. Mm-hmm. I speak a lot with my friends and here or back there. There are lots of people who need to do the mourning. You know what is the mourning? We say in French the deuil. You know.
Grieve. Mourn.
You know?
Yeah.
You know, the mourning, and it's like when you lose your son. You know, it's like when your son is been killed. The parents need to have this forgiveness. You know, and if they don't hear, France is asking sorry. You know, things are not going on. You know, it's just a thing that I wanted to say. So I disagree with the fact.
But what about the situation today, that when you just heard, a former advisor to the president saying Algeria is different. Algeria is not like other countries in the region. We don't need to have a revolution.
I think there was a civil war for 10 years or 12 years that killed like 150,000, I think, Algerian or more.
In the 1990s.
More than that, like 200.
100,000 people.
200, I think. Yeah, I think 200. So they are pretty much shocked with that. They are pretty marked with that happened. But I think they will need at some stage to have, to gain their freedom. But it's not us that we have to tell them when they need to do it.
No, but this brings me to my next point. Does
we
France
have also this French connection, French language connection? One
moment.
Yes.
Does France? Can I just ask?
People need to gain their freedom by
Pierre
themselves.
Canesse, does France have a responsibility? Because I remember the French government under Nicolas Sarkozy being very heavily criticised for going to China and not bringing up the issue of human rights. Does France not have a responsibility when it does trade with these countries to bring up the issues of human rights, to bring up the issues of democracy, transparency of government and that kind of thing? I mean, we just heard François Hollande. He says that Algeria's already had its Arab Spring.
You mean a responsibility regarding which event?
To promote French values and to promote freedom and liberty and transparency and democracy.
If you talk about the colonization period, yes, for sure. I mean, the responsibility of France was quite important.
No, I mean today, when they're signing deals today.
But, today, the main difference between Algeria and the other Arab countries during the Spring Revolution is that immediately when the first events happened in Tunisia, the Algerian government suddenly increased the subsidies, which means they have, reserve of oil money. This is not a way to manage the crisis. It's just a way to solve it temporarily for short terms. And the problems in Algeria, the main problems are still to make productive jobs, to implement factories, etc., which is not exactly the way they are dealing with. I mean, the main people is still at the power, and they're still using the money on the same way. I mean, to calm people, to quiet people, not to develop the country.
Okay, we are running out of time. I just want to touch on one more issue before we go. Hollande did talk a bit about visas today. Now, 200,000 visas are granted to Algerians a year already. Hollande is not going to increase that number, but he says he wants to make it easier for Algerians to come to France. A lot of people find it very strange, people from outside France. Why French citizens of Algerian origin are so poorly integrated into society here, why they still live in the estates, they're very poorly represented in the media, in politics, and elsewhere. I mean, why is that?
It's just what we are just talking about. It's because of the past. Because the past hasn't been resolved. How do you want to build hopes and how do you want to build futures when we have been waiting for 45 years to talk about war? Look at what happened between France and Germany. They make peace. Germany said they were awful. France says okay, they shook hands and think it's all right. We had still now, because of the group of pressure like Pieds Noirs, group like in south of France, they are very powerful, and I still live in the place where I was born, in Saint-Denis. And I can tell you that when I speak to the youth there, they have a feeling of they are not treated like French people because of the past too.
Because of their families'
yeah,
experience.
because 132 years of colonization, it's not a fairy tale, you know. It's very violent.
Okay, Alexandre Kadab.
Yes, I think really we should try to disconnect these two issues. I know it's difficult because there is so much passion between the two countries. There is history, but there is the need now. I don't agree with the former advisor to the president. I think that Algeria should become a normal country now. It should not continue to view itself as a kind of extraordinary country. It should try to consider...
One moment, Mr. Serra, one moment. One moment.
We were so suffering. Our personality has built.
Yes,
Mr. Serra, one moment, you'll get a chance.
I am myself...
This is a difference. No people suffer like Algerian people.
No, I understand your point.
Sorry to say that.
No, but
Right.
okay, I know. I have the double citizenship. I have the French and Algerian
Let Alexandre
citizenship.
finish his
I
point.
am
So-
Algerian 100% and no people
Okay,
suffer like Algerian people.
I don't have any lessons from you to give me.
Yes.
Okay, let me just finish. I understand your point. What I was trying to say is that Algeria now should try to build a better future for its youth, without continuously trying to find some kind of scapegoats, whether it is France or Morocco. It's very important for France to recognize the crimes of colonization. There is no doubt about that. But
So why they don't do it then?
They have to do it, and they will do it eventually.
When?
But there is also a need from the Algerian side to depassionate its relation with France and to start to view France as one of the partner. Okay, it's a big partner, but it's one of the partner among many other partners. Now Algeria has the opportunity to develop ties with the big emerging countries like China, like India, even Brazil. Why not? So they have to open up their mindset, their view of the world, and they have to get out of this kind of relation with France that does not bring anything to the Algerian people. It's important, we know that, we share this history,
Okay.
but now we have to move forward.
Alexandre Kadab, point
Je
very well
t'aime
made.
moi non plus,
Je
you
t'aime moi
know?
non plus.
It's
That's what
like
they say here in France.
Algeria.
Right. Unfortunately, we have
Je t'aime
run
moi
out of time. Alexandre Kadab, Nadia Dendoun,
We love France and we
Pierre
love Algeria,
Conessa,
and that's why it's difficult.
Pierre Conessa,
But we
Malek
should go
Sarai.
forward.
Thank you all
We
very
have to
much
solve the
indeed.
test.
We're going to have to leave it there on the France 24 debate. Thank you for watching. We'll be back tomorrow. Good night.